Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Checkpoint Radio, an all-new fan-run video game podcast. My name is James.
I'm Ben.
I'm Connor.
And I'm Charlie.
And in this episode, we'll be diving right into a spoiler-filled The Last of Us TV series discussion, as well as looking at the news, so let's get into it. Well, happy Friday for those of you who are listening to this on day one. Thanks for tuning in. And if it's not Friday for the rest of you, then hopefully you're having a great day too. So, gents, it's episode 3. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, how is everyone doing?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Really good, thank you.
Really, really good.
Good. So what's everyone been up to, I guess? That's where we'll start today.
Well, I've been playing, I'm sorry to jump in, a game for 2 weeks straight, and it's not even out yet.
Wow,
okay.
What's that game?
Well, the game's called The Finals. It's currently in the beta. It will be over by the time this podcast comes out. But basically, it's a fast-paced FPS made by the original DICE devs who departed away from EA back in the day. And they've come together to make this shooter, and it's amazing. It's actually just my favourite game. Everything.
So what's so good about it then? Because I know you've been playing. Well, I've played a lot of it with you, but I know you've been, in particular, you've been on it at every moment you can get. So what is it about this game that's so good?
So basically, it's an objective-based game mode, predominantly, where the goal is to get money from these vaults and take them to these cash-out stations. There's 4 teams of 3, all battling it out to try and come first. It's set in this game show type scenario, and you need to take this money to the cash-out stations, be the team with the most amount of money at the end. And then if you are successful, you'll go through, and it's like a tournament. So you'll go through all the way up until the end and hopefully win the finals. But there's tons of destruction. Like every single building is destructible entirely. And forget the destruction from the OG Battlefield 4 days. It's destruction like everything can destroy. And it's very well done destruction too. It's not like you'll shoot this wall with a grenade and the whole wall blows up. There's a good amount of damage that needs to be done. So it's not too much chaos, but there's tons of chaos. But anyway, I love the fact that it's objective based, and it's it's just
that's obviously I've been playing this game with you and Connor a lot, and one of the things I love about the game is the destruction aspect of it, because the game is so focused on the objective. You cannot win a round or a match by just eliminating other players. You have to play the objective. It forces you to play the objective because that's where you get the most money from. And the objective, as Ben said, is to finish every round with the most money in the bank. Yeah. One thing I love about the game is there'll be a situation where an enemy team might have a cash out point on lockdown, and you can just go to the floor below them and blow out the floor completely to bring the vault down to you. Booby trap the whole place and get them all to drop into it and jump them that way. The destruction and the sort of different types of equipment and guns you can use lead to so many kind of creative scenarios where you can basically plan your infiltration route, how you're going to attack this cash out point if it's already being held by other teams. And that kind of prospect has given us so many really sort of epic gamer moments where we've done some just legendary crazy plays, where we've zip-lined into rooms through windows and, like I said, blown out floors to drop the cash vault through, and booby-trapped rooms and stuff like that. It's really, really fun, and I'm really enjoying it. Goo-gunned up the doors, and I think, Connor, you were also in the early access playtest. That was way back, sort of beginning of last year.
That's awful.
Yeah, it wasn't in a good place. I was worried because when the game came out, when the trailer for the game came out, I thought this game looks really good. So I signed up for the playtest straight away. Was lucky enough to get in. Played about 3 minutes of one match. Uninstalled it because I just wasn't impressed. And it's nothing to do with the game itself. It's just I was in there so early, and I'm guessing for you, it's sort of the same.
That alpha should not have come out at all. If anything, if it wasn't for, I think, Ben's enthusiasm for the game, I wouldn't have jumped into the beta.
What, because the alpha put you off that much?
Really? The tutorial was awful. It was almost like you've just been thrown into this game that's meant to be played on a PS5, but you're playing it on a PS1. There was so many performance issues; it just couldn't handle it.
Yeah,
and I didn't have a terrible PC at the time. It just didn't run. But
mine didn't
I've
run that
really
well
enjoyed
either.
this.
Yeah, really good.
I think the pacing's fantastic. Like 8-minute matches, it's quick. You don't have to be, like you said with the team-based thing, you have to work as a team. You can be the best player on the game, but you can still lose.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you get a ton of kills or...
There's good tactical play to it. Like if one's a small character, one's a medium character, one's a large character, like you said, you can go in, destroy it. One can heal. You got the zip lines and stuff like that, so you really have to work as a team to get the objective. I like that. I liked the beta up until the latest patch, and it's put like a sour taste in the mouth a little bit.
Yeah.
What happened with the latest patch? Because I haven't actually played it for a little while.
When we played the other day together, I thought the balancing was pretty much on point. There's a couple of things that can change. I think the movement, there's issues with the movement, but it's only the beta. So, but you know the rifle that comes with the smaller character.
Yeah, the LH1.
Oh yeah.
That game, you just can't. Everyone's got that gun now. They've increased the clip size, so there's 20 bullets in a round now, and it's just wipes the floor with everything.
It will kill a heavy in like 3 or 4 shots. It's nuts. But I think once again, the devs have been really on it in the beta. Like, bearing in mind it's only a beta, only there to sort of monitor servers and performances and stuff. But they've been updating and giving patches out for this beta, even though it's only a 2-week thing. Like, they didn't really have to do that because I would have thought that all updates would have come in between the time the beta ends and the game launches.
Yeah.
But they've been updating the beta, so I'm not sort of too worried because I feel like these niggles are going to get fixed. But anyway, I could talk about this.
Yeah. Well, it's a game we've
really
all
good.
enjoyed. Yeah, Charlie, what do you think? So you haven't had a chance to actually play, but you've watched us play it.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I didn't manage to get into the beta, but you guys have been streaming it for me, and I think it looks really good. It looks like such a fun game, and as you said really before, like, you need to play the objective, which I like.
Yeah.
I am a bit bummed out though that the squads are only three people, because like it's kind of the reason that I don't like Destiny, is because like we had too many people that can't always play together.
Well, you can't fit 4 people into a 3-man squad.
I can kind of like, I don't know. I don't want that to be the same for this. But
well, look, it's the game's going to be free to play when it comes out. So, is it going to be free to play?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't want to put out any misinformation yet. So the game's going to be free to play when it comes out. So we'll all get a chance to play it, and we'll all get a chance to play it together.
Do we know when it's coming out?
There's no date at the
zero
moment.
news.
But this has been quite a lengthy beta, and the game seems to be in a good shape. So hopefully not too long. But yeah, I mean, before we move on, Charlie, have you been up to anything else? I feel like we've kind of overtaken this intro and just been talking about the finals.
No, not really. Just work. A little bit of Halo, a little bit of Valheim.
Generation Zero.
Can't go wrong.
Oh yes, good shout. Yeah, played Generation Zero for the first time.
Nice.
That was really fun. Hopefully a bit
Bit
more
of
of that
different
to come.
game for us.
Another 3-player game, which is a trend.
Yeah, what's these 3-player games about, man?
Yeah, but I'm playing this time, so I actually like it.
Good point. Right, shall we get into the news then?
Yeah.
So, as with every week in the gaming industry, lots of news. Up first, though, the Diablo 4 beta. Now, this is not a game that I have particularly had my eye on, you should say, but I know that Ben and Connor are actually quite excited for this. So, do you guys want to tell us what's been going on with Diablo 4?
Yeah, absolutely. So the beta, closed beta, has been on now for a few days. Impressions from the gamers so far have been that the gameplay lives up to their expectations, the aesthetics are beautiful, and the storytelling is even quite impressive, even though it's just a short little beta again. But yeah, looking great. There's been a little bit of controversy, not massive, but basically in America, other than pre-ordering the game, the only other way to get a key for the beta is to is to buy a double down from the KFC app. So it's basically like two slices of chicken with a bit of bacon and cheese in the middle.
No, hang on. I don't care about what the food is. Like, why? What?
Oh,
It's so random.
It's the most
I'm not saying,
American-
sorry, what's a double down?
no.
I'm saying,
alright.
why am I getting a Diablo 4 beta key from KFC?
It's
Yeah,
the
no
most
idea.
American thing ever.
It's crazy. People are calling it an anti-vegan beta.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the beta. Reception's been great. It opens up on the 24th. So if you haven't pre-ordered the game, you can play it on the 24th to the 26th.
Lovely.
But yeah, it's looking
Well,
really
that'll be
good.
today, won't it, when this comes out, the 24th? So if you're
Oh,
listening
yeah,
to this on the day of release,
Listen to it as you play 'em.
go and play Beta 4 and listen to this podcast.
Enjoy your double down.
Such a random way to get a key.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Connor?
No, I've had an eye on it for a while since it got announced because I think I've always sort of wanted to play Diablo, but I've always thought the barrier eventually might be a little bit too high. It's sort of out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, it seems like one of those games, doesn't it?
Seems very grindy. And then Ben said he was interested, and so we were speaking about it. I think it got announced. Was it last year? I think.
It's been it's been a couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
And Blizzard are notorious for like soon TM. That's their thing.
And then I also remember a few years ago at BlitzCon there was a massive uproar because they were meant to announce a new Diablo game, but they announced a mobile app,
Diablo
and there was a
Immortal.
lot of and that's the one. So it sort of put me off Diablo. 'cause
I remember that.
The community
Yeah.
was sort of up in arms about it, and I thought, well,
Yeah.
I think I'll stay away.
People were asking if it was like an out-of-date April Fool's joke. Like they were fuming.
Really?
Yeah,
Classic
because basically,
entitled gamer bullshit.
yeah, Diablo 4 has always kind of been a rumor, so everyone kind of knew that it was coming. So everyone went to this like BlizzCon to go to get this massive announcement that they had teased, and it turned out to be Diablo Immortal, which at the time was only ever meant to be released on mobile. And the people would come up after the announcement, people would come up to the stage and ask questions to the game devs. And they started saying like, are there any plans for this to come to PC? And they said no. And then they like,
Kicked off.
yeah, tone deafly said to the crowd, like, have none of you got phones? And like really got like defensive about it. And the crowd was just like,
boo.
yeah, big time. But anyway, they kind of went back on it, released it on PC. But anyway,
So-
Diablo 4's on the way.
I
so.
stayed away, but I've had friends that have played Diablo, and they said, "Oh yeah, it's like, especially Diablo 2." They were like very, very passionate about. And for what I can understand from people's comments and stuff I've checked online, like this is giving people a lot of like the feel of Diablo 2. So I think this would be
Okay,
the
that's
perfect game to jump into the franchise for the first time.
Yeah.
I'll try the beta when it comes out on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's an open beta, I'll give it a go. I've admittedly never played Diablo. I don't know
Yeah,
anything
me
about the
neither.
No, I
game.
can't say I have either.
Well, I suppose I'll give it a go. Charlie, you gonna give that a go? You know, not bothered.
Probably not, if I'm being honest. I watched the first 17 minutes of gameplay that's available on YouTube, and not my kind of game.
Yeah, I might check it out, but I'm undecided
Yeah.
at the moment.
We'll play it, Ben. We'll play it.
Yeah,
I'll-
you can play it and then you can give us the review after you completed it. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Some not so well. Actually, I don't know if it's not so good news yet because it hasn't officially been confirmed by the studio. But Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League has reportedly been delayed again, even though at the time of recording this, it's not been formally announced. Are we surprised? The fan backlash was pretty harsh.
I'm
I'm
slightly
a bit
surprised.
surprised.
Yeah.
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 I thought Rocksteady would have probably stuck by their word. This sort of suggests to me that they weren't confident with the game.
Do you
What,
think
after
maybe this was
receiving
the
feedback?
direction kind of the online only thing and the live service? Maybe that wouldn't have been their first choice.
I think with the heads leaving after this comes out, if I'm remember rightly, I think they want to make sure this game is as good as possible before he goes, leaves him in good stead, so then they can just. If he leaves whilst they're in turmoil, that studio could collapse.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think they will. I think they're too good to, but it could happen.
Yeah. Charlie, thoughts?
I think it's probably a good thing that they are delaying it again, because I was thoroughly unimpressed, as I mentioned last episode. But obviously, it's bad that there's delays, but I think it needs work.
Is it? But what needs? Is it the live service aspects of the game that you don't like, or is it just the general sort of look of it and like the shooting mechanics and stuff? It did look a bit samey.
That's not going to change. I wouldn't have thought the general mechanic to the game. I don't think
Yeah.
they're going to add anything in a delay window.
No.
But
Well, I read
don't know.
earlier that they reckon this could slip into next year.
Yeah, I was just
Next
about to say
year.
that. Yeah, I saw
would be-
something.
A bit of a blow.
Yeah, that said that there's a chance that it could actually be delayed all the way up until 2024. And if
Yeah.
that is true, or if there's any part of that might be true, that might suggest that the changes that they're planning on making are
Big.
much bigger.
Well,
Yeah.
according to Jason Schreier of Bloomberg, the developers are not changing the core of the game. So the live
Okay.
service elements of the game will be staying. But with a delay that could go into next year, I mean, we're talking close to a year. So I don't know what that looks like. I would like the only thing I want to see change at the moment, because to be honest, I don't care for the live service stuff. Not that I don't want it in the
Yeah.
game. I just don't care if it's in the game or not. It's a way for studios to kind of make consistent money, I suppose, after the release of their game. We all know that video games now are very different than what they were kind of 15 years ago when we were young and we used to play and you bought the game and that was it. It's not like that anymore. This is just the way it is now. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be sort of like facetious or anything, but I do think there is an element of you have to kind of like try and understand this from the developers and the publishers' point of view as well. These games are not cheap to make. They can cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And for the publishers, the live service element is a way that they can maybe fund their next game or maybe
Yeah,
fund their next project.
I'm not against the live service model as long as the studio's open with them. I think they've already said in that trailer that like, they're going to be adding new content to this game for the foreseeable future. So I think the live service model works.
Yeah,
My biggest issue was the combat.
the gameplay.
I've got nothing against the live service thing. It puts me off certain things. But if I really like that game and I know there's going to be more content added to it, perfect.
Yeah.
Destiny works. I know it has peaks and troughs. Some bits of DLC work, some don't. But if they're constantly adding content to a game that you love, what's the downside to it? I don't understand.
yeah, I'd agree with that completely.
I mean, I think the problem for a lot of gamers is, and I completely kind of like empathise with this and understand this. The problem with for a lot of gamers is that the live service thing kind of feels like a bit of a cash grab, and it feels like they're just trying to get more of your money. I don't necessarily feel like that about some games. Some games I do, like Assassin's Creed, for example. Why have you got fucking downloadable content like skins and stuff for Assassin's Creed? That's a bit why. And like the Helix points or whatever that you can spend to upgrade your character and level up and stuff. I think that's just a bit shit, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
for Rocksteady, I think they've done enough to earn the benefit of the doubt, and I think we can definitely wait to see what the game is like when it releases before we judge it.
Yeah, entirely.
Yeah. Is it not just cosmetics with Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice
Yeah,
League?
apparently it's just
So,
cosmetics.
I
It's
think
nothing
that's-
game changing.
That's fine for me. I've got nothing against that because you can make the choice whether you want to do that. It's not like a pay to win. It's just
Yeah.
purely cosmetic.
I do
Yeah.
think players have been burnt before because obviously when loot boxes and that first come out, obviously Fortnite's just been sued for this as well. I think players have been burnt. So when they hear live service, their tails go up. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I've experienced a bad one in the past. I'm not going to give this one a go.
Yeah, I understand that. But then again, people moan about live service this and like pay to win that and battle pass this and that, but it doesn't stop people spending money on Fortnite or COD or GTA 5, which is an old game now. So
Yeah.
it doesn't stop people doing it.
Oh yeah, the money that GTA still make is mental.
Yeah.
The games industry tripled its industry value when games as service or like live service games were fully introduced.
Yeah, it's not surprising, really.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of online games, another online game that's coming out in a couple of months. I don't know if we're excited for it. I'm cautiously optimistic. Redfall released a new story trailer. Initial thoughts, what we thinking? I'll go first, actually. So just to go over the trailer itself, it details some backstory in the game, a bit of world building, kind of talks about how the vampires were created or sort of like alludes to it a little bit. I don't know how I felt about it. I was kind of
Me neither.
impartial, I guess. I'm really hoping for some real sort of like arcane atmosphere and mystery, like the stuff that they're known for. That's what I want from the game. Their games are very atmospheric, but in terms of like the actual gameplay and stuff like that, I'm a little bit worried about this game. I don't think it's going to do that well, and I don't think it's going to be kind of making any big splashes for Xbox when it eventually releases in May.
My biggest issue with Redfall is every trailer has a different tone. I don't think it knows what sort of game it wants to be. The first sort of one we saw when it was announced, it was like Left 4 Dead, here's a bit of fun, here's 4 quirky characters, and then it's changed and it's changed again. And this is giving me, I hope I'm wrong, Back 4 Blood vibes. I think this game will be done in 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
It just feels strange to me that we haven't seen the gameplay they showed. I think me and Ben had a quick discussion about this yesterday. It looks scripted. But really slow and methodical. It didn't look like it was fun.
Yeah, I got that impression.
I felt like where they'd overly scripted the gameplay part of the trailer. So like the first half of the trailer where it was like very cinematic and explaining the story, I thought that was like really interesting. And then when it started to show the gameplay and it was like they were trying to go over that Division style rehearsal scripted like cooperation, and I don't know if it was like similar to how you guys reflected on Suicide Squad's trailer and that being a big sort of like, I don't know if that's for me. It was the same thing. I just felt like the game, they didn't do the game justice in this trailer. Like the game could be great, but the trailer for me put me off massively. And I felt like it looked like just DLC for Fortnite. Like I legit feel like if I was to jump on Fortnite at Halloween, it's just like a reskin
that's what it might
of
look
Fortnite.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did look like something someone made in like the creation zone.
Yeah, because I thought it looked a bit cartoony and a bit childish is a harsh word to use, but with like the vampires and then the weapons and like the abilities, it looks like a bit of a mishmash of. Because like I understand the story is like, okay, the vampires, you know, we opened up a bloody rift for this or whatever, and then all these things started coming through. Okay, I get that. You're trying to put it in some sort of scientific background. That's fine. But then why did the main characters have like the strangest abilities that don't really make any sense unless they were part of that experimentation or they've experimented with those things themselves? Maybe that will be explained when you play the game.
You've got that with the 1950s British B-movie horror narrator on it as well. The trailer was all over the place. And I thought that was the same with Suicide Squad. I just thought whoever put the trailer together didn't do a good job. So obviously we'll play it, it'll come to Game Pass, but I am slightly worried, which I shouldn't really be because I trust Arcane. I think Arcane are probably Bethesda's best developer, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I hope that it's just a bad trailer because I am actually quite I was looking forward to this game. I thought it had, some good promise.
Something a bit four player, like cooperative, bit tactical.
Yeah, I thought
something we could experience.
Yeah,
be a good game to play together.
But I don't know. This trailer's not it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about the game, but I just don't like something's not sitting right with me about the game at the moment, and I really want to be surprised and kind of proved wrong about it, because I do feel like Xbox need to start getting some wins because their first party portfolio is seriously lacking. So I'm hoping for Xbox it is a good game. I'm prepared to be proved wrong. I want to be proved wrong about my kind of skepticism of it. And hopefully we will be.
Hopefully. Yeah. Because it was one of my most anticipated games this year. I'm not going to look at it like an incredible game, but just a good bit of fun. Something that they can continue to. And obviously these sort of games get compared to it all the time, but we've not really had a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. And I thought this could have been it.
It was meant to be Back 4 Blood.
That game
died a quick death.
It's not giving me AAA vibes.
No.
Yeah. Just feels like...
It's a shame.
Well, May the 2nd, that game comes out and we'll be able to see for ourselves what it's all about. So anyway, moving swiftly on, a bit of sad news for the industry this week, as Lance Reddick, legendary voice actor and film actor, sadly passed away aged 60. Lance Reddick, probably most famous amongst gamers for his role as Commander Zavala in the Destiny series, as well as Silence in the Horizon series from PlayStation.
Yeah.
Really unexpected, this, quite sad. And one of those things that it comes out of nowhere, and it feels like it really sort of makes you think, well, it could happen to any of us, I guess.
Yeah. Sad.
Yeah.
Connor sent me a Forbes article from a Destiny player and game reviewer, who wrote this beautiful article on he's been playing Destiny pretty much every day. The way he wrote it was really good, but basically saying he's listened to this dude's voice for 10 years. And by the sounds of it, he was similar age to us, around his 30s, and a third of his life he's been listening to this dude's voice.
And it's such an iconic voice as well.
Yeah.
And even now, as we're kind of talking about it, I can hear his voice in my head. I can hear
me too. So
Commander
iconic.
Zavala or Silence or any other number of roles that he's played.
Yeah, in the Killzone, he's one of the main commanders in Killzone. That's the one that hits me hard.
I think that suits him, that kind of role, because he's got such a sort of a commanding voice and a commanding presence. And
he tells me to go to war, I'm going to war.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't really think about it like that. 10 years, that's a long time. Yeah, well, our thoughts and condolences go out to his family and close friends at this time. Just a final note, my favourite Lance Reddick role, The Guest. What a great film that is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, The Guest is so good.
I didn't even remember.
I think it's worth a rewatch now, isn't it?
Fantastic movie.
Yeah. Right, shall we move on then, guys?
Let's.
The Last of Us is one of the greatest stories ever told, not just in video games, but in all of entertainment media. The harrowing yet beautiful story of Joel and Ellie is one that has left a significant mark in the industry and has raised the bar for what can be achieved from a storytelling perspective in gaming. Since its release back in June 2013, there have been rumours of movie adaptations, with the co-director of the game, Neil Druckmann himself, saying he turned down one opportunity to work with the studio due to their vision for the movie being more in line with something like World War Z. Perhaps these studios failed to understand what The Last of Us, at its core, was really about. That is until the showrunner of HBO's Chernobyl series came on board. Fast forward a few years, and now in 2023, just a few months short of the game's 10-year anniversary, we have a 9-part TV adaptation produced by the same people who brought us one of television's best series in recent years. The Last of Us on its surface is a story about a virus that ravaged society and destroyed the world. But looking beneath that, you will find something more intimate. A love story about a father and a daughter who, despite how lost they are, give each other a reason to fight. But does HBO's The Last of Us succeed in capturing those core ideas? With Neil Druckmann's heavy involvement and Chernobyl's Craig Mazin's TV experience, the show was perfectly placed to be one of the few video game adaptations to succeed. Now that we've seen all 9 episodes, how do we feel about the series? Is the video game adaptation curse finally broken? Let's discuss.
That was beautiful, James.
Thank
Really
you.
good, dude.
Very nice.
Connor, let's go to you first. Thoughts? I know you're a massive... Well, actually, I should preface this by saying we are all huge fans of the game. We've all played the game. Some of us have played through it numerous times. Having said that, Connor, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm a massive Last of Us fan. I remember it was when we both got our PS4s at the same time.
We did.
Was it uni or was it college? No, it was uni, wasn't it?
When did the PS4 come out?
2014, no,
14 maybe, or
2014.
Might be 14. I don't know. It feels like a lifetime ago, but yeah, we did get the PS4 at the same time.
We got our PS4s at the same time. We both got The Last of Us, and I remember both of us going up radio silent and just playing this game as quickly as possible. Not as quickly as possible, but didn't want to see any spoilers. We'd missed it on the last generation, and I don't know how to word it. I'm not blowing smoke up his ass too much. This is probably the best story I've ever played from a video game perspective. It's a movie caliber story where the gameplay sort of comes second. The gameplay's decent, does the job, but the story's what it punches you in the gut. It drags you in close.
The first 10, 12
And
minutes is just...
Obviously, I think we were all cautious about this. We've been burnt before with video game adaptations, and I think it's the most faithful video game adaptation.
Yeah.
But it's also quite disappointing in certain aspects, and I didn't want to be this guy. I think the story's very good.
Well, okay, we'll leave that there for now, Connor, because while on that note, I just want to get the opinions of the others first before we get into the whys and the hows. So, Charlie, let's go to you next. What are your initial thoughts of the series?
I really liked it. I thought for the most part, really good. There are some bits that could have a bit of work. Like there's certain elements that you get from playing the game that I didn't feel whilst watching it. But on the whole, I think it was a good adaptation.
Yeah. Okay, that's a fair point. Ben?
Positive Ben, as per usual. I thought it was brilliant. I recently
Of course you did.
watched...
Not a bad thing to say about anything.
Yeah, it was perfect. There's no changes. I recently watched the Last of Us game recap after watching the series, just so I could make like really current retrospective like comparisons
Comments,
between the series and the game. And I was surprised at how much I'd forgotten about the game. And when watching the series, like it sparked some like remembrance, if you like. But I kept on getting confused between like Days Gone and even Uncharted, because there are some things that happen in those games that are quite similar in a way. But anyway, getting sidetracked. But yeah, I thought the series was a really good adaptation. And there were some parts where when I did rewatch the gameplay recap, I was like, oh my God, it is so much like the game in some places. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought the casting was great. I felt like there were some episodes that I wasn't the biggest fan of, and I could have like skipped it. Not skipped it because it wasn't important, but skipped it because it wasn't my favourite. But anyway, I thought as adaptations go, especially game adaptations, I thought it was definitely one of the finest that we've seen. But yeah, interested in what you think.
I liked it. I thought it was a good attempt at adapting the story. I don't think it was a great attempt. I don't agree that it's like one of the best TV series. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say because I don't have the luxury of being blind to the game. So everything that I see in the series is comparing it to the game.
Yeah,
and it's a good series. Don't get me wrong. I think the acting is for the most part, the acting is good. There are some parts that just don't land with me whatsoever. And we'll get into that in a minute because I've got quite a lot of like things to say about why I don't think the series quite worked as well as it could have done. But for the most part, the acting was good. I love the cast. I think Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal are great.
Yeah.
They're two fantastic
Perfect
actors, and they're brilliant. I don't know why people had a problem with Bella Ramsey before she even spoke a word as Ellie, but she's great.
Disgustingly, they were sexualizing the character Ellie. That's why people had an issue with it.
She's 14.
Yeah, exactly. They were going, "Oh, this is not
You
my
fucking
Ellie. She's
weirdos."
not pretty enough."
That is
And yeah,
cringe.
it's disgusting.
Yeah.
That was the biggest complaint, which is ridiculous. And those people that are sexualizing it, they do realise that Ellie was moulded after Elliot Page. So that'll probably send them into shock. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
That was the biggest issue. But we'd seen Bella Ramsey in Game of Thrones. We knew she had acting chops. I was a big fan of her in that role.
Yeah,
and
she
I
was a
thought
badass in that.
she was brilliant in that.
She was great in that, yeah. Great in Thrones.
And I thought Pedro Pascal is probably perfect casting now. I think 5 or 6 years ago, you probably go for Hugh Jackman, especially after Prisoners. But I think he encapsulated Joel perfectly.
Yeah, so good. And Joel is such a unique character. Like, personally, I know this might sound a bit weird, but being a dad as I am and going what he goes through, obviously at the very beginning, I can only imagine that it shreds every ounce of your humanity away from you. Like, you've lost fucking everything. And the one thing the game captures so good is that Joel is a fucking badass and he is not to be trifled with in any way, shape, or form.
He literally is a man with nothing left to live for.
Nothing to lose. Yeah, he is the definition of I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And I felt like there were some moments with Pedro Pascal. I thought he was an amazing cast for it. And there were some scenes where he could portray that entirely, like especially when he was like looking for Ellie in that bit where she saves him, she gets captured, and he's going on her, or at the very end when he has to fucking blast down the entire Firefly facility. Yeah, there's some parts there.
Pedro Pascal was maybe not as rugged as Joel is portrayed in the game. He was a little bit kind of softer, a little bit softer spoken. His mannerisms, he didn't like quite have that. Because when you see Joel in the game, he's got a real sort of weight to him, a real kind of gravitas. Like he walks into a space and it's like, Jesus Christ, don't look at this guy. Pedro Pascal didn't quite have that, but he had a different sort of like, a different kind of like rage beneath the eyes to him, which I really did appreciate. Yeah. Charlie, you look like you're about to say something.
What do you think of Pedro?
I really like Pedro as Joel. Don't know whether or not I would have seen it immediately when if I was in charge of casting, whether I would have gone
agree with that. I agree
Pedro
with that.
Pascal. But I think he played a very good Joel. See, it's been too long since I've played the game, but after hearing you say that, James, about maybe he's not got that sort of gruffness, that weight to him, I can kind of see that. But I do think he does. I think he's a great actor, and I think he portrayed the feelings that Joel would have well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he was definitely a good choice.
He's not an obvious choice, but now that you've seen him, he is an obvious choice.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
I see Troy Baker talk about it because obviously he was involved in the series, and he said something quite poignant, saying like he played Joel differently than I did, and I learnt more about Joel than I did whilst playing Joel, which I thought was quite
interesting.
I know he can be very pretentious what he talks about, but the way he said it, it was like, I think Pedro was a bit more nuanced. He wasn't, Joel in the game was like, he'd burn everything around him.
Yeah.
He'd punch walls, that sort of stuff. That's what you thought. He was just waiting to explode. And I think, James, you hit the nail on the head. It was behind the eyes. It's like when he was dealing with that soldier at the beginning, when he's selling the drugs, he sort of just looked at him like, don't tempt me.
Yeah, don't you fucking dare.
Don't fuck with me.
So how do you feel the series did on a whole adapting the story?
It hit the points it needed to hit, but I think once you got past episode 4, because I took things nice and slow up until episode 4, and then it just hit the afterburners.
Yeah, I felt like the series was quite short, and I felt like it needed another episode.
Yeah, or take out. There's a couple of episodes where it's a bit fillery.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying they're bad episodes. I'm just saying that when you've only got 9 episodes to play with, perhaps you don't need to have those episodes. Like,
so you're talking about the Bill and Frank episode, and then the Ellie and Riley episode. They're the 2 episodes you're talking about.
Those are the 2 episodes in question.
Yeah, I think the Ellie and the Riley episode was more important than the Bill and Frank episode. And the Bill and Frank episode is a incredible 70-minute bit of television. One of the best single episodes that you'll ever see
for TV.
It's beautiful and it's heartbreaking.
I loved the episode, but
it
doesn't progress the story.
No, and that's where I kind of have a bit of a problem with the way they adapted the story, because it's great to see love, particularly love like that, flourish in the most kind of like the worst case scenario. But there's a couple of things that episode does to the whole story overall, which I think have like a pretty negative impact on the delivering and executing the final message of the story. The first thing is that with Bill and Frank, you don't really witness or see the threat of how dangerous this world is. They get. I know there's that scene where Bill gets shot and the Raiders come. That's just like one sort of quick sort of minute, 90-second mashup montage of one event that happens. Like, for what we know, Bill and Frank have lived together for 20 years with barely any kind of trouble from any infected, any Raiders. Nothing's really gone wrong, and that seriously diminishes the threat of this world where if you've played the game, you know how kind of savage and unforgiving it is. And it's that threat of the world that makes Joel and Ellie's relationship so strong. And that's why the end of the game doesn't pay off. The end of the series doesn't pay off in the same way as it does in the game, because those threats just aren't there often enough. There aren't enough moments where Joel and Ellie are in a us versus the world situation, which builds their relationship and builds their trust. The sequence in the game with Bill, where you go to the school to steal the battery, when you get the battery, you're trying to jumpstart the car whilst you're fighting off a bunch of infected who are running after you. Joel is trusting Ellie to get the car started while he's at the back with Bill pushing it. You don't even know if Bill gets away. But that is one of the first moments where Joel and Ellie kind of like grow together, because it's something that Joel's had to trust Ellie to do something that if she gets it wrong, they're all dead.
Yeah.
Before you even get to the school, you go to Bill's town and he's booby-trapped the shit out of that town. Yeah. And he's going around, he's doing runs to redo the traps. He's constantly in danger, and that gets taken away immediately with this gated community.
And Bill's reaction to Ellie, and he finds out that she's been bitten, he's immediately hostile. Like, Bill becomes a threat.
Yeah. And I just felt there's too many... There are too many sequences that were taken out of the game that I think should have been taken out of the series. Sorry, that I think should have been in the series, and that was one of them. Going to the school to get the battery, because that's the first moment where you really see Joel and Ellie kind of working together.
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that where the threat levels of the world were reduced. I'm just going to repeat what you said. It doesn't like hammer their relationship together. Like, they have to cooperate. They have to rely on each other, and their rocky start ends up becoming rock hard. Do you know what I mean?
Because of everything they
are
go through.
Solid.
The key one for me, obviously the school's a massive part of it, is when they're going through the hotel and they get split up.
Yeah.
I think that could have added, obviously, there's a threat. Every other episode you see like one infected, it feels like. And I don't know if it's a budget issue with HBO, which you think wouldn't.
Well, I actually do think that was probably a big part of it. I think they had limitations with the production budget.
But the hotel scene where they get split up and Ellie saves Joel's life is the key moment.
That's so important.
It's a key moment. Yeah. He starts to begin to trust her, and they just throw that in a random scene earlier on when they get jumped, when they see that dude in the street, and Joel knows it's a trap, immediately knows it's a trap. And then it's just like a quick throwaway scene. Whereas I think this series suffered from a lack of horror.
Yeah.
Didn't have to be jump scares and stuff like that. But there's times in that game where you're going through a dark corridor and you're hearing clickers around. You might hear a bloater in the background or something like that, and it does get tense. There wasn't any of that.
Yeah, I agree. There wasn't the tension that you feel as you're playing the game.
Yeah.
And like, I feel in the game, there's so much of a stealth aspect where you need to sneak around and be silent to avoid dying. Whereas, I think from what I remember of the TV show, there's the bit in the museum where they're trying to sneak around the clickers, and then that's it. Yeah. There's not really anything else.
And even like resource management, like in the game, you're really trying to scrimp and scrape by with the stuff that you find and the ammo that you grab from downed foes. Whereas in the series, there was no real threat of like running out of supplies, or we're on the road and we need to get ready. And I know there are some scenes where they might be like stopped by the side of the road and taking gas out the car, but it's, I don't know, in the game it really felt like I have 4 bullets and then I have like a knife, and I go in full guns blazing, I'm not walking out of this fight alive. Whereas there just wasn't enough like real nail-biting conflict where it's like I'm down to my last fucking bullet. I don't know.
So going back to that hotel scene, which is another one of my favourite kind of scenes from the game, just to elaborate on what you said, so they get separated, Ellie and Joel do, and I can't remember the reason why, but Joel needs to go into the basement of the hotel to restart the generator, and this would have been such a good episode or such a good sequence for the series, for Joel to go into a flooded, pitch black basement full of infected by himself to restart a generator that is going to make a fuckload of noise and attract a fuckload of infected to him. That would have been such a good kind of like pure horror moment to have in the series. And yeah, so immediately after that, that's where Joel is jumped by that guy and Ellie shoots him, and Joel suddenly thinks, okay, fucking hell, I can trust this girl now. And then there's a bit not too long after that sequence where Joel needs to run across the street, which is full of raiders, and he gives Ellie his hunting rifle and basically says, you got to protect me while I go over there. And he says to her, you make every shot count. And that's the moment where Joel really sort of begins to trust her because of everything they've just been through. They both just nearly fucking died in that hotel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the fact that these like moments, I mean, I get the whole kind of like, oh, it's not about the infected, it's about the people, it's about the story. I get that, but the infected really just make the world so threatening that it forces Joel and Ellie to fight for each other every single moment they can, otherwise they won't survive. And that's what builds their relationship.
Yeah, you're right. Like, it felt very much like one-on-one. So there's like 3 teams, if you like. You've got Joel and Ellie, you've got all the raiders and stuff, and then you've got the infected. But it felt like every combat, apart from that one scene where there is that free-for-all and it is when the big bloater comes out of the ground. But other than that, throughout the entire series, it felt very much just one-on-one. It was Joel and Ellie versus people, or Joel and Ellie versus infected. Whereas in the game, it's a lot more dynamic. You're having to fight against sometimes all 3 teams.
Yeah, I also felt like it must have been budget issue because when Joel gets stabbed, I know it's further on in the series, those dudes just walk around the corner like one of them's just gone for a piss and he just runs into them.
Yeah.
It's like there's 3 guys.
Yeah.
And during that scene, you're going to find out where the scientists have gone. It's a real tense moment. You get jumped. Joel falls onto that massive like
bit of rebar, isn't it? A bit of metal.
rebar, and it seems like it's real tense. He's in and out of consciousness. He's trying to protect Ellie. Ellie's protecting him, and they did it in like it felt like a minute. Walks out, gets shanked, kills the guy. They get shot at, and he's on the horse immediately. And it's like, I'll see you later.
So, yeah, I feel like the end of the series come around so quickly, and it definitely could have done with either tweaking some of the episodes or adding in the extra episode to make it 10. I don't know why it was 9 in the end. It's a bit strange for it to be
and the last
9
episode.
That's a bit of a weird one.
40 minutes in total, I think.
Yeah, it's disappointing for me personally because you know you get to the end and the ending is meant to be so kind of like, oh my god, like it's Joel, what are you doing? And then he lies to Ellie and it's like, no Joel, you fucking lied, like, and it's meant to be like really sort of like, shit, what happens next, like where do we go from here? But it just doesn't, for me, it just did not pay off in the same way as it does in the game, and it's a shame. It's a real shame.
Also, with the ending, Ben touched on it earlier. I also thought they shouldn't have shown Jackson. That should have been at the end because they meet Tommy at the dam. They don't meet him in Jackson. It just felt odd. That whole last episode might as well have just been a montage in that hospital of him gunning people down.
I think I know what it was because the bit when they're kind of walking through the medical zone and Joel is opening up to Ellie and tells her the story of how he got the gunshot wound, which is basically he tried to kill himself and fucked it up. And she's like, oh, well, you know, at least you recovered. Time heals all wounds. And then he's like, oh, it wasn't time that did it. Obviously implying that meeting Ellie was what fixed him, which is a really lovely kind of like message that is part of the game, the story of the game, but it feels so unearned. And it feels like they tried to fast track their relationship by adding that new bit of dialogue into that point, because that wasn't in the game because of all the stuff that I mentioned previously that they missed out on, all the relationship building they missed out on previously. They stuck that bit in the end to try and fast track it all to make it seem like Joel had this epiphany now and like this new kind of like view on the world and life because of meeting this girl, when you don't actually see any evidence. Well, you see little evidence for that happening throughout the story.
Yeah.
I just felt after we get like 5-10 good bits of content with those two together, and then the producers, whoever the writers, just afterburned them straight in. Right,
they're never alone together either. Like, why are they never on their own together? Why is there always other people there? Like, think how much time you spend with Ellie in the game, just you and her walking and talking. So much time.
Here's Tommy. Here's his missus. Oh, she's cutting your hair. Right, see you later. Here's Sam and Henry. Here's the people that are chasing Sam and Henry. Here's Tess. Here's David and his freaky little mate, which he's not little. Troy Baker's really tall, but and then it's like, oh, he saves her, and then, oh yeah, we're going straight back to Tommy again. There's no solid piece of time, and I think if they had gone to 10 episodes or 12 episodes, an episode
Maybe it would have been different.
An episode in the school, an episode in the hotel, and then one more, or maybe even like an hour and a half final episode. I think that goes from like a 7.5 series to a 9 quite easily. Because you just need that payoff, and you don't get it.
Ever since I kind of like replayed that bit in the hotel like recently, because I'm playing the game on PS5, I feel like I just can't help but think they missed an absolute diamond of an episode there.
Yeah,
going into that flooded hotel with the infected, like that is pure horror movie, and it would have been so good to see that.
Joel having to help Ellie out because she can't swim.
Yeah,
and like
that's when she starts.
They're
the bits that. He's helping her because he's starting to care about her.
I'll tell you something I did like, though, that the series added that wasn't in the game at all. At the very beginning, with that sort of, I don't know if it's 80s, 70s report on this new fungus.
That was great, that bit. That was
good. I wanted more of that.
Yeah, just because it fleshed out the story more that you don't get in the game, because obviously in the game you kind of get thrown into their lives, no context on what this virus is, you kind of just work it out as you go along.
Yeah.
But in the series, when he was referencing about like the world getting hotter and the fungus adapting to the new climate and maybe being able to spread, I thought that was a good touch. So
I mean, it sounds like we've been kind of shitting on the series. Well, we have been, but I did enjoy it, and there are a lot of like redeeming qualities to the TV adaptation, and the little bits like that they flesh out. You know, the bit with Ellie's mum when she gives birth to her, and you kind of conclude that that's how she's immune to the virus. That was like really good.
But yeah, I thought that was great. I've got a question.
Okay.
So for people who have not played the game and watched the series, like I've got a few people at work that have never played the game but have watched the series, like, do you think it's a good adaptation for those who haven't played the game? Like completely blind people?
I watch this every episode with my partner, and she's never played The Last of Us. She's heard me talk about The Last of Us, like when this was first sort of announced. Again, there was bits where she would be sitting there going, "Where are the mushroom people?" as she would call it. Like sitting there, like even maybe not, but even she was sitting there going, like, "Where are the infected?" Because when I would speak to her about the game, it's like, "Oh, there's this bit with this clicker," and it's like it's really tense.
Yeah. So
she enjoyed it. I think. Well, we both enjoyed it. I think it's the most faithful adaptation I've seen. There's still stuff missing, but it's a 20, 30 hour game. Like you're never going to get that unless they give it 12, 15 episodes. And I know it's been renewed for 2 more seasons, apparently. That's what the rumours are. But the next game is huge. So I'm slightly worried unless HBO actually give it the budget. But I think it's been really well received. The only episode that hasn't been well received across the board is episode 5. I can't remember.
Which one was that? That's the one in the with Sam and Henry.
Yeah.
And you see where you see the bloater for the first time at the end. I like that episode. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I did as well.
I think that's my favourite episode, actually.
Yeah, I think the first 3 or 4 episodes, if they carried on that pace, especially the first 2 episodes, if they had carried
first 2 episodes were great. The first episodes were really solid. It started off really well.
I think that the first episode shows how dangerous this world is. I know it's the outbreak, but then you get to like Joel sitting there burning corpses, like because they have to. This the world they've gone in. They sort of just get away from that. It's like
so they add in. I don't think this is in the game, but they add in a new sort of feature of the infected that they're all connected like a hive mind, and when you hit like a vein or something, then there's infected that will feel that.
I like that. Yeah,
I really like that, and I don't understand why it wasn't used again later on in the series, because that was setting up a real sort of crazy action moment.
Like, can you imagine if they were like going through the forest where nature thrives and this fungus has like spread its roots throughout this entire forest, just for instance?
I think it was just Druckmann being kinky and he wanted a mushroom person snogging Tess, to be honest. That was all it seemed to be used for. And then you make a massive point of this, like in those first 2 episodes, the episode with Tess is like, right, don't tread there, be careful, because like, and then you see them all connected under this, I think it's like a massive car park or something they all burst out of. You never see it again.
No.
Like they walk for miles and miles and miles. Like you said, Ben, like they're in nature. They've gone everywhere. They don't come across it once.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd agree. You don't really get that sense of threat that you have from the game, like whether it be from the infected or from raiders, or you just don't get it. But going back to your question, I think it's a good television show.
Yeah,
It's
an okay adaptation.
I'd agree with that.
I think that's the biggest thing with the series, or the biggest miss, I think, is the lack of just Joel and Ellie time, the lack of relationship building with those two, and the fact that the world is not as threatening as it kind of probably should be, I suppose. I just wanted to actually circle back to you, Ben, stuff you mentioned at the beginning. I'm interested to know, has your kind of perception of the game or your understanding of the game changed from when you first played it to now, and now especially as you're a father?
Yeah. Like, obviously playing so I played on the PlayStation 4. I never played it when it was on the PS3, obviously way before I had a child. And it's a very heartbreaking scene. I'm talking the parts where Joel obviously has his daughter still. And playing it for the first time, it's a very sad scene. Child or no child, even if you're a solo dude or dudette and you have no ties, you know what I mean? It is heartbreaking regardless.
Big up the dudettes out there.
But then watching the series and being reminded of just how heartbreaking that scene is, no joke, I was welling up at that bit, because you can't help visualize yourself being a father with a daughter, losing her in the most awful way, and then imagining to yourself like what that would do to you. Because everyone goes to a dark place in their mind every now and again, and I have these weird thoughts, bit of a tangent, but I have these
You're
thoughts.
You're about to admit
where,
something that you shouldn't admit in a recording.
I like to do things. No, I'm joking. I have these thoughts where if I were to lose my daughter, I would go fucking off the radar. No one would hear from me again. I would be in the army for the rest of my life. Like, I would just need to do something. I couldn't do anything else.
He likes oil.
Unless it was like life-threatening and dangerous, I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't do a normal 9-to-5 job. No way.
So you completely agree with Joel just fucking up the hospital at the end and shooting everyone? Yeah. You'd do the same with Joel?
He can't lose another daughter. And the one thing that the game captures, especially with that end scene, is Ellie has become Joel's daughter, if you like. Their connection becomes that strong that he cares for her like he cares or cared for his own daughter. So when he tries to get her out of the surgery room, there's nothing that stands in his way. I kind of feel like my perception of the series is altered in a way because I'm not saying I'm any different, but understanding what Joel will be going through trying to get his daughter back, I might, in my mind, immediately add some extra emphasis to what he's doing in my mind because I just know what he's going through in a way, if you know what I mean. I can almost imagine it in more clarity, and that might be why. Yeah, and that might be why my impression of him as Joel is really good in certain scenes because I'm like, I do the total fucking same, and I'm sure we all would. But yeah, going back to your original question. Now being a father and watching the series and being reminded of the events in the game, I definitely look at it differently. And when I play the game again, when it comes out on PC soon, it's one of those scenes, for instance, that I just don't want to play again because it's just I do, but I don't because it's going
to be a different type of emotion.
Oh yeah, it's going to be insane.
See, I remember playing the game, the amount of feelings you get from the game, how deep it is. I don't know whether that was just because that was the first time I played the game and I kind of knew what was coming with the TV show, but I didn't feel that emotional connection as much.
I
was different. I knew what happened to Sarah. I welled up. I don't know why. I think they had really good on-screen chemistry. You sort of bought it that was his daughter.
Yeah, the girl who played Sarah was great. She was really good. Young actress.
I know Pedro Pascal I think it's Diego Luna, the guy who plays Tommy, and the girl that plays Sarah. They all went on holiday before they filmed, so they would feel like a family.
Oh,
and it did feel like it. You thought that was his daughter. Like, they had really good on screen. I welled up to that, and I was an emotional mess at the end of Bill and Frank's episode. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean,
I know why.
I know we kind of like said, the series as a whole probably could have done without that episode, but that episode, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was blubbering by the end of it. It was so sad.
I was an absolute mess. No, it's not that I loved that episode. That episode is one of the best bits of TV I've ever seen, and I'm really fond of the Left Behind as well. But I almost feel like those could have been.
They should have been DLC for the series.
Like a mid,
Yeah, I was thinking that in my head just now.
They could have done 2 episodes before season 2 comes out, just to fill in time, because I think they're going to wait for Bella Ramsey to mature a little bit. I know she's about the same age as Ellie is in the second game, but she does look a little bit younger. I just think those 2 episodes should have been elsewhere. We needed 2 more episodes. Or they just had more episodes. They could have added 3 episodes. Those episodes are brilliant. 3's one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen. I was an absolute wreck. It felt like it took away from Joel and Ellie. That's my only gripe with it.
Yeah, I think that's. I agree with that. I mean, if I were to rate the show, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10.
7.5 maybe.
Yeah, the game is a straight 10 out of 10, and I will
every day.
I don't think there's going to be a game that's going to be that kind of like impactful from the story perspective for a very long time. And it's Naughty Dog, fair play to them. They have set the bar extremely high when it comes to narrative-driven video games. But yeah, in comparison, I just think that the series just misses a few too many marks for me.
It's difficult when the source material is that good, when it needs little to no adaptation. It could have been a hard copy and paste from game to series, and it would have been fucking amazing.
Do you feel that we'll ever get an adaptation? Well, I think this is the most faithful adaptation. It's probably the best I've seen, but it still feels like it's missing something. But I've also played that game 3 times. I know that game like the back of my hand. I don't think we were ever going to get an adaptation that feels as good as the game, because I know it's a virtual character, but you've lived through it. You've been through it.
Yeah. That's what I was explaining to people at work. Like, playing a game, some of these people I talk to at work have like never played a modern game. Like, they don't understand that a story can go that deep in a game. They look at games like shoot, gun, or it's ping and pong, whatever. They don't understand that a game can be so deep and have such an incredible story with amazing acting and everything else in between.
Do you think that an adaptation's ever going to live up to your playthrough of it, your experience? Because we've played as that character.
Do you mean The Last of Us specifically, or just generally?
I mean,
for video
in
games?
general, because
it's difficult. Because it's hard because there are so many other.
The only one that's worked for me is Mortal Kombat, but I've never really played Mortal Kombat like that. I know what Mortal Kombat is, and it's over the top, balls to the wall fighting story, so that makes sense. But a game like this, where you've gone through the moments you've gone through the hotel, and like you're searching for bullets, you're scrambling around, you've really clawed your way through that game to get to the end, and you get that emotional payoff at the end. I don't think you can recreate it. The story can be there. You haven't got the same experience.
Yeah, there'll always be the lack of your interaction and your involvement in driving the story forward is always going to mean that. Well, I don't know. That's maybe it's a little bit too harsh to say that, but there's always going to be that kind of like, maybe you won't resonate with the story as much because you're not living it, like you're not playing it physically, pushing the character forward to go to the next story beat, which is always going to be a problem for video game adaptations. Like, they're never going to be able to overcome that, I don't think, ever, because it's just impossible to translate that to. Well, maybe it's not impossible. Maybe someone's just not figured it out yet, but it's going to be hard to translate that really to the TV, to the screen, to get that level of immersion. Yeah, I mean, it's a good go, at least. I think the Last of Us series is a good attempt. I mean, I've got nothing against it. Like it's always going to be different for us because we've played the game, so I'm always going to be comparing it to the game. And when I was watching the series, I was getting really emotional at the bits that are emotional, not because I was watching them though, because I was thinking about the game and how the game made me feel.
PTSD.
Exactly.
Like, in that first episode especially, I loved how much they honoured the beginning of the game. Everything that the first episode covered. Like, I remember sitting next to my partner watching it, and you know when they're in the car and they drive past the burning house in the game?
Yeah.
I said to my partner that if they drive past a burning house, I'm going to be fucking ecstatic. And then the burning house goes past, like, oh my God. And then there's that bit with the curtain blowing in the wind. And I was like, you won't even understand. You won't understand the blowing curtain in the wind. Like,
The blowingness, you don't get it.
And there were a few other parts as well. But I watched some really good comparisons between like the first episode and those same scenes in the game. And just how well they really mirrored each other. The first episode especially was a standout in regards to like game.
Yeah, the first episodes were really,
kind of.
really good. Were really good.
The thing is, they were so true to the opening of that game, but they added things, but the things they added worked. You go and see Sarah go and get Joel's watch fixed. She goes next door and the dog's barking and stuff like that. I think that really worked. But
and the little bits like, it's in the flour, and they were meant to have pancakes, and they didn't have pancakes.
Yeah,
they survived.
So clever.
They were meant to have pancakes for her birthday, and they didn't. And Joel was a bad dad and didn't get them, but in the end, he kind of saved his own life.
Dad.
Yeah, and then isn't it like, for those who don't know, there's a scene later on where Joel and Ellie are walking and talking, and then Ellie asks how the infection got carried to so many people all in one go, and then Joel was explaining how it probably got into the flour, and then people started to eat the flour all in one go when it got hit the shops, blah blah blah. And then they didn't have pancakes that we saw in the beginning and cookies.
Yeah, I think the first 3, maybe 4 episodes, they added things to what we already knew. And
they fleshed it out
additions.
quite well, didn't they?
The rest of the series, they just took shit away. It was just like, right, that can go. We're not going to have an emotional scene in the thing. We're just going to put on like a Call of Duty soundtrack in the background. He's just going to go and run and gun through it.
It's very montagey.
Do you think there was a lot of constraint put on Druckmann?
It feels like the show generally had a tight budget,
but the thing is,
for one thing, it being 9 episodes and not 10 I don't understand that. Why not just make it 10 episodes and then put a episode in the middle that helps Joel and Ellie's relationship? Surely they could have taken any number of scenes from the game to do that.
Also, like, one of the showrunners was showrunner of Chernobyl, like one of the best seasons of TV ever. HBO should have been fucking throwing money at this.
Yeah.
Like, you did that with Chernobyl. That did really well for us. That's fantastic. You've got the game creator on board. That game sold this amount of units.
But from what I've seen online, it's been very well received. Do you think that like the next series will have a boost in budget and there might be a bit more freedom?
So obviously Ben and Charlie, you haven't played the second game, but Connor and I will tell you that the second game is huge. It's massive. They are going to need to crank that budget up for the second part of the story.
Like huge, massive in regards
to the scale of it. The scale of the game is massive.
Like how?
Yeah.
So it's set, just for like a quick bit without giving too much away, it's set like what, 5 or 6 years after the events. 5 years after the events of The Last of Us Part 1. So Ellie's grown up, Joel's a little bit older, and
they're in Jackson. They're
living there. They've been there the whole time. So they seem happy. But yeah, it's 5 years later on, so the world is even more fucking desolate than it was when you sort of leave them. Everything's overgrown. Like the production budget is going to have to be cranked up because there's a lot of other enemies in the game now and people to look out for.
Yeah, and with that, Charlie was talking about how it was received. I don't know if the last episode was, but every episode had more people watching it. The like when it premiered, like the numbers. The premiere numbers were going up and up and up as the series was going. Yeah. And I think it had, barring like Game of Thrones, it had one of their best premieres ever. So HBO knew it was doing well. And that's why they moved it from the Super Bowl evening as well, because they knew they'd get killed in the ratings. And that show was doing really well for their ratings. So they moved it because they knew it would do numbers. So I think HBO sort of cottoned on, we've got a hit on our hands.
Yeah, I'm expecting big things from the second and third season. So I'm actually, to move on quickly and just like look ahead to the second and third season. I know you guys haven't played the game, Connor and I have, but are we looking forward to what's in store for Joel and Ellie next?
I'm looking forward to the show. I'm not looking forward to the story because the
story's cold.
It's an emotional roller coaster. And The Last of Us 2, I think people are starting to turn around on it now. It got a lot of backlash for the reason it got backlash. I won't go into it. A lot of fucking stupid people.
Yeah,
Is it the same people that wouldn't like episode 3?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
those sort of people that should take a long walk off a short pier. It's an emotional roller coaster of a story, and The Last of Us 2, I don't know how to. I compare The Last of Us 2 to Manchester by the Sea. It's a wonderful story. It's a lovely, really wonderful piece of work. I'd never want to watch it again or play it again because it fucking hurts your soul. That's the only way I can sort of describe it. It is heartbreak,
What a review.
It's savage.
and it's gonna need to.
There's nothing happy about it at all.
No,
Let's just put it
it's
that way.
dark. It's miserable, but it's
It was
a
amazing that they
it's a
can
wonderful
capture that.
story.
Yeah, the thing is, like the Last of Us Part 1 done a really good job of finding hope and optimism in a really bleak world. The Last of Us Part 2 rips that away.
It's like The Road,
Yeah.
Manchester by the Sea. It's just fucking heart wrenching.
So I mean, I don't know if we want to do this, but does closing out, final thoughts, anyone? What would you give it out of 10? Recommend, not recommend?
I'd recommend it. I'd highly recommend it.
I would.
I think
Yeah, I'd recommend it too.
it's a very good watch for people that have played the game or have interest in games, and I think it's a very good series overall. I've spoken to people that have never played the game and they've watched it, and I want to play that now. So I think it's good for the it's good for the industry on the whole.
Yeah. I just think it's great that this story's been as much as there are moments where I was kind of rolling my eyes and I was wishing that they'd done certain things differently. It's really good that something that us gamers have loved and cherished for such a long time can now be shared with a wider audience. I think that's a really sort of good thing for the industry.
To pick to
what
adapt.
a game to pick.
Like,
yeah.
And I think these adaptations are going to have to get better now because they've sort of set the bar.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get better adaptations in the future because we've had some proper stinkers over the years.
Sony have got a God of War series with Amazon
are doing that
in the works, so that's going to have a massive budget.
If Amazon start throwing fucking the Rings of Power money at that God of War series, it is gotta
They're
be
gonna need to.
so good.
And then I think also the guy who directs the John Wick movies has got the Ghost of Tsushima movie, if I've read correctly.
Oh, nice! I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't
That's
know that was
awesome.
happening.
Yeah, and
Very
if
nice.
it's anything to go by, I think John Wick 4's getting like 10 out of 10s and 9s out of 10, so it's in good hands.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
To summarise, I would recommend. I know there's parts of this where we seem quite critical, but overall, I do think it is a great show.
I think we're
I
critical
would
because we
recommend
love the story. That's why
maybe
we're
we
critical.
should. So the disclaimer is, well, we all massive fans of the video game, and we don't want people to be put off by the way we're talking about the series, because the series without the video game is still a fantastic series, and it's still worth watching.
It's very good.
Highly recommend.
Okay, well, just to see this episode out, some upcoming games to look out for. The Last of Us Part 1 is finally coming to PC. I'm sure we're all eager to jump back into that world, especially after watching the series. That arrives on the 28th of March. As we mentioned earlier as well, there's also the Diablo 4 open beta. That arrives on the 24th of March. Are you guys going to be... Well, this stupid question, of course you're going to be playing.
Silly
both of those.
question.
I think me and Ben will probably be streaming it. So,
Definitely Last of Us. Been waiting for that for a long time. And Diablo.
Yeah.
I'll definitely play it.
Give it a go. So are you looking forward to getting back into The Last of Us?
Yes, so much. Like, it's, as I said, like before, I've not played it pretty much since. Actually, no, not when it came out. I was a bit late to it, but
Did you play it on the
very long time?
Did you play it on the PS3 or the PS4?
PS4.
Okay.
Yeah, I've only played through it once.
But yeah, I'm well up for playing through it. Actually, I'm a bit hesitant to play through it again because there's parts of that game that freak me out.
Oh well, you're
I'm willing to go through that again.
yeah.
It's going to be sick on the PC. Like, imagine the control, mouse and keyboard. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, very much looking forward to that. James, are you looking forward to it?
Well, I'm already playing through The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5, so yeah, I'm probably not going to play Diablo 4, to be honest.
Are you going to finish it now that you've finished the TV series?
Yeah, I am going to finish it now. So I'm kind of gotten into a situation I didn't want to be in with juggling too many games. But The Last of Us will be. I'm not in a rush to complete The Last of Us because I've played it through several times already. It'll just be something that I sort of dip in and out. But yeah, looking forward to
You
it.
shared some screens from your playthrough the other day, and I was just like, I was almost bought a PS5.
Yeah.
I was like, I've got.
I mean, to be honest, like it looks phenomenal on the PlayStation, and it's going to look just as good on the PC. I don't think it's going to be better than the PlayStation, because I don't think PlayStation would actually allow that. But it's you're in for a real visual treat. It's going to be good.
The specs look mad on the PC to get like ultra. It's like fucking hell.
Ben can let us know how it is.
Yeah. Your screenshots, James, like I had to check with you, like, was this you, or was this like straight from the devs? Because
me, baby.
They were so good that it looks like screenshots you'd get for advertising the game.
Well, the game, to be honest, the game does most of the work. It just looks so good. Like it's difficult to take a bad screenshot in that game, especially with like the photo mode and all the extra controls you get as well. Well, that was episode 3 for Checkpoint Radio. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then leave us a rating and share it with your mates. You can also tap the link in the description of this episode to see our YouTube, where we post gaming videos, our social sites, and also our community Discord server. It's a great place to come and hang out and talk games, and even find others to play with. So thank you all for listening. My name is James.
I'm Ben.
I'm Connor.
And I'm Charlie. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.